Bismillah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Hello and welcome to I think this is our fifth or sixth parenting talk that we're doing this year. My name is Ayman Azlan from KinderKaizen Arau branch. I am the franchisee, so I opened the first and only branch of KinderKaizen in Perlis. And tonight we are giving this free parenting talk to all parents, everybody who's interested, to talk about the topic free to play. And this is in conjunction with this month being the month of Merdeka, the month of independence, talking about freedom. So we're talking about freedom in terms of our children. What kind of freedom do they want the most? And this idea came to mind, this idea of having the freedom to play, the freedom to explore, the freedom to be their true self. And that is a child, right? And that's the idea of the topic free to play. And tonight I will be giving to you three main points from the idea of free to play and taking a few gems from the book Ada Apa Dengan Bermain, talking about play. This is written by our founder, Dr. Putri Afzan Maria, and we will go into a few of the pages within this gem of a book. And before that, I just want to let you guys know that this is recorded and you can watch and rewatch and share and reshare this with anyone whom you think should hear about this particular message. And the message is our children needs to have the freedom to play. And the idea comes from studies done in the West, studies done here at home by Dr. Putri and others. And this idea is not a new idea. I just want to put it out there, okay? This is not a new idea. The idea that kids, especially between the ages of 0 to 6, should play. And that's it. That's their time. They should play between the ages of 0 to 6. It's not a new idea. If you think of it, historically speaking, the idea of having a kindergarten, if you go back, way back into history, kindergarten literally means kinder, kids, garden, garden lah. It's garden for kids. And the original intention with the kindergarten way back when was to have a place where kids can play. Because at that time, this is the time of the founder of the idea of kindergarten as we know it, which is Frobel. You can check online. The idea is that at that time, kids were already doing, adult stuff, working and labor and all. And this man saw that kids are having their childhood, for lack of a better term, robbed from them. And he wanted to have a place where kids can just be kids. So he created the idea, the concept of having a kindergarten, a garden for kids. Literally just come and play and be kids. And over the course of many, many years afterwards, the idea of having a place to play becomes more and more blurred. And now it becomes a place where kids literally like go to school like adults. They sit down, they open books, they learn, they study, they even do memorization, rote memorization. So they don't play as much. And it becomes a secondary part of kindergarten. Play, which is originally the main part, now becomes a secondary part of kindergarten. Play is just this thing that we insert into the schedule of a child in kindergarten, whereby kindergarten should be all play. And I know parents, because we've been operating KinderKaizen Arau for 3+ years now, and we understand concerns from parents, which, by the way, the points that I'm about to give you should, I hope, address those concerns. And one of the main concerns is, well, if they're just playing, when is my child going to learn how to read, write? The three M's, basically: read, write, and count, right? We'll go there. We'll go there. Don't worry. But let's go one by one. The first thing that I would like to tell myself and others, because I'm a father myself, is the fact that children are by design natural learners. You don't need to teach them how to learn. They are natural learners, which begs the question, why is it that right now we see a lot of students, they don't like to learn, right? Like, for example, not too long ago, recently, somebody messaged me saying that now we need to do something about students who don't want to learn. They don't want to further study. They just want to, play games and become influencers and so on and so forth. Budak-budak tak minat belajar. And I look at it as something that is odd, because belajar, learning, is something that comes naturally to children. Just look at any 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old. Just look at them, just observe them being kids. You start to realize that they are actually computing with their tiny brains things that are complicated, to a point where they are figuring things out by themselves without adult intervention. You don't need to like teach them. They don't need to be taught how to, interact with one another. They don't need to be taught how to play certain game. They don't need to be taught those things. They need to be guided, but you don't have to really teach them. They're just natural at that. They observe, they figure it out, and they learn. They adapt. That's how kids are naturally. But then when learning becomes this thing that you do to children, rather than learning is something that children naturally do, then it becomes something forced upon them, which is not a surprise. Then you have children who end up not berminat nak belajar, right? Not having the interest to learn, when this is an oxymoron. You naturally learn. Kids, for example, those who are playing games on their phone, they are naturally learning how to navigate those things. Like, parents don't even need to teach them how to navigate the phones and so on. They figure out by themselves. And this is part and parcel of their biological nature, that they are naturally gifted with the ability to learn by themselves. Okay? But that begs the question then, okay, if they are natural learners, so we don't need teachers? No, that's not what I mean. That's not what this fact is telling us. This fact is telling us that they have the ability, the potential, the means to learn already, without us having to force them to learn. That's the idea. They are naturally good at it. And children can tell in their environment what is important to learn and what is not important to learn, because they are naturally looking for things that are functional for them to learn. For example, reading. Lots of parents are worried about reading. Kids, if they are exposed to letters, prints on paper, books, and they are naturally exposed to them in a play environment, not forced, naturally in a play environment, they start to learn that this book thing is kind of important, right? Because I see it all around me. When I'm at the back, my dad is driving in the highway, I see all these symbols everywhere, like this thing that popping up. Like, I see those symbols, and I see it again in books, I see it again in TV, in my computer, in my games. I see those things, and they naturally figure out, oh, these things are important, I need to learn them. So they will come to us eventually asking, Mama, Papa, ni apa? What is this? What does this say? What does this sound like? So they'll naturally ask for that, because they know it's important and they will learn. That's what I mean when I say children are natural learners. No need to force them. They just know that they have to learn. And coming back to the idea of play, again, recently, many things happened recently. We had an open day in our kindergarten, Tadika KinderKaizen. And one of the parents came, new parent, still new to the whole KinderKaizen environment, asked a very good question. She asked, so you basically do learning while playing, right? Which is a very good question, because all around you see people talking about um, playing while learning or learning while playing. So it's like these two things happening side by side. While we, on the other hand, we don't see it that way. Because again, children are natural learners and play is the natural way they learn. So it's not like it's learning while playing or playing while learning. No, it's actually play is learning for kids, especially below the age of 7. Why am I saying below the age of 7? I'll get to that in a moment. There's something in the book that I want to show you. Basically, the idea is for kids, play is how they make sense of the world. And how they make sense of the world is how they will figure out what they need to face the world. Knowledge, skills, know how. This is how they learn through play. I'll give you a simple example. When you see kids in the playground, you know, they're hanging upside down, they're running there here and there, they're chasing each other, they're playing with sand, they're throwing things, they're catching things, and they're yelling, telling this, telling that, making up rules and all that. They're fighting, sometimes cooperating at times, they're sharing things, and having conflicts here and there. You see, as adults who probably don't realize the essence of play, you see them just chaos, everything just kids just being kids, which is true, it is chaotic. But within the chaos, if we observe carefully, we start to realize that they're actually putting puzzle pieces together. A simple example: a child playing tag, right? Tag a friend, you're it. So you chase each other. There's a lot that needs to happen before that can happen, even though it's a simple game of tag. One thing that should happen is the ability to control your body, because you need to run, you need to be agile, you need to avert people, you need to avoid obstacles. So you need to have body awareness, you need to have enough physical development to be able to do the maneuver you need to play tag. And then you need to be able to socially function in a way that you can cooperate with your friends, meaning, emotionally speaking, you need to be able to share. That we're now sharing this game. There's a rule that we all need to obey. And the rule is as follows: if you get tagged, you're it. You have to chase somebody else or chase the same person. You have to tag somebody, then you'll be released. That person is it now. So you chase, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, within that, there's also conflicts that may happen. Maybe some injustice happens. Somebody cheat, or somebody does something that someone may perceive as not fair. So you have this idea that, oh, I need to speak up. I need to tell this. No, I don't like that. No, you cheated. You cheated. That's not right. That's not right. So that happens, and this is now a negotiation between, okay, right and wrong, and then how do we remedy this? How do we amend this? Do we reset the play? And somebody has to make sure that the chaos is not to a point where we have to stop the game, because kids don't want to stop the game, they want to continue the game. So they have the motivation to resolve the conflict so that they can continue playing the game. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the game of tag, playing in the playground. And within that simple game, there's so many real life skills that we still use as adults, that apply in the game and also apply in real life. So it's not playing while learning or learning while playing. Play is not this additional accessory. It is the integral part of their learning experience. Play is learning. And that's what we try to apply in every KinderKaizen branch that we have in Malaysia, because we do practice this idea of pure play. It's not play while learning, learning while playing. It's not like play is something we put in our schedule. Okay, from this time to this time, it's play time. No, it's like the moment you come in and the moment you go back home, it's all play. It's all play. And sometimes it may seem like chaos, but actually within that, there's actually a science behind it. There's a structure and there's a reason why it is designed to be as such. Just like you see in the playground, just kids playing tag, but within that, they learn a lot of useful skills that they need. And not just for life, not just for adult life, but also many parents are concerned for school. Let me just show you a bit of the book Bermain by Dr. Putri Afzan Maria. And the reason why I'm showing you the physical copy of the book because I'm showing you that you can actually get the book. I'll give the details to where you can get the book in the description soon. So basically, this book outlines, when I first grab a copy of the book, I had no idea that play was this complicated. To be honest, when I was in the beginning, I was skeptical about play. Also, I was at of the impression that play is just kids just burning time before they can come down to sit down and do work, something like that lah. But as I learn more about play, about children development, I start to realize is more than that. And this book kind of embodies the gist of it so that we understand that play is much more than just hoo-ha and just kids making noises. For one thing, there's actually in this book outlines at least you have 12 types of play there. See? You have physical play, puppet play, read aloud, loose parts, messy play, block play, dollhouse play, makers play, nature play, pebbles play, sensory play, and letter play. And within all these types of play, it builds up the necessary foundation for kids to face the world. School, yep. Work, yes. Relationships, yes. And life challenges in general. And the reason why play is crucial, especially, let me repeat, especially for age 6 and under, is because, let me show you this pyramid right here. Check that out. So you see the arrow pointing to the top of the pyramid, see there? That is pointing to math, writing, and reading. What are those things? They are academic skills. Wait, really? Am I looking it right? Yes. That is how tiny, in proportion to everything else, how tiny academic skills really are when you put it in perspective. When you put it in big picture mode, that's how tiny it is. But that is what we disproportionately worry about when we talk about our children, age 5, age 3, age 2, and we rush them through. And for this to happen, for the top of the pyramid to be in its proper place at the top, you need to settle everything else at the bottom of the pyramid first. Otherwise, the top has no foundation, or rather, has no strong foundation. And underneath the top of the pyramid, you have skills such as sensory skills, which is one of the most basic skills. You see babies playing around with sand, playing on grass. You see babies, or rather toddlers, eating rice with their hands. All these are sensory things. Sensory things. They need to be made aware of how their body feels and how things have different textures and all. That's sensory skill. And then there's motor skill. There's gross motor, which is like rough movements, and there's fine motor, which is little movements, the kind of movements that allow you to hold a pen for writing. And before we talk about children being able to write, we first need to talk about, well, are they able to hold a pen? Are they able to grip? Do they have the necessary bone structure and muscle configuration for them to hold the pen properly? Sometimes we may introduce the pen too soon because we want them to write as fast as possible, right? We may introduce the pen too soon. They first may have to climb things. Kids climb things, right? You have kids at home, they climb your grill at the window, they climb the bed frame, they climb the gate in front of the house, they climb the monkey bar. This climbing motion is kids learning how to grip, and this is important for them to learn how to control the digits, grip things, and have enough grip strength and grip manipulation to be able to hold the pen properly. I'm simplifying it, of course, but giving you the idea that before we talk about academic skills at the top, let's talk about skills at the bottom first. Is your child properly exposed, or does your child explore enough of the physical world around, like climbing up a tree, or chasing a cat, or crawling in the ground, or picking up something from the ditch, maybe a ball fell down a ditch and go pick it up? These are all physical developments that are crucial in a child's life. Other than motor, there's also processing skills, communication skills, language skills. These are all prerequisites that we need to settle before we talk about the skill at the top, the academic skills. If you rush too soon before a child is ready, then we may skip a few and the child may not develop properly, or they may be able to read, write, but because they're not being properly introduced to the whole skill from the beginning until the top, they may end up hating those things because it's not naturally introduced, it's forced upon them. And that's not right. That's not nice, right? We want kids to love reading, love writing, love language, love counting things. We want them to love these things. In order for them to love doing it, it has to be done naturally according to their individual pace. And I say individual pace because this pyramid, even though we do have a range of ages where they should develop certain skills, it's not going to be the same for all kids. Some may be faster, some may be slower, some may be just nice. Either way, it's not a race. As long as the child develop those skills properly, the child will be okay. And that's kind of the idea that we always remind ourselves in KinderKaizen, and that is the child will be okay. You provide the environment, you provide the support, and the child will be okay because we understand this is them learning. This is the process. Trust the process. Trust the process. This is like one of the most famous line by Dr. Putri. Trust the process. The process is happening. Trust the process. And I give you one anecdote lah, an example in my own life about my firstborn son. So my firstborn son, um, we decided to open KinderKaizen in Perlis due to the fact that we just want a place for him to play. We understand play is important, but we couldn't find a place where he can just play, socialize, make friends, develop socially, emotionally, confidence, and everything, because there's a lot of this academic stuff that's in the way. It's too much too soon. So we decided, let's open KinderKaizen. And it's not much about KinderKaizen as a brand that caught our attention. It's just the idea. It fit. It fit the studies. It fit the science. It fit the fitrah of a child. It fits. So we open it. But there's still skepticism in my mind about this whole play thing. Is it true? Just play. That's it. Everything will be fine. But when I saw myself, how my son developed through play, and I realized that he gets to learn all the things that I worry about, reading, writing, counting. He gets to learn all those things within play. A few examples, just to give you some idea. How did my son learn how to read? Right? You have a book here, right? There's a play called Read Aloud Play. Okay, so read aloud, basically, you grab a book appropriate for the age, not this kind of adult reading book, but this is actually not bad. A lot of pictures, right? But you have books appropriate for the age 4, age 5, lots of pictures, lots of, colors, and very few prints, very few words, but you have that as introduction. So you hold the book out and you read for the child. The child doesn't read. You read for the child, and you read with accents, with tone of voice up and down, pitches high and low, with characters and all that stuff. You make it like it's a movie experience, so the child naturally are into those stuff, storytelling, right? It's like the one of the oldest form of communication, storytelling. We sit around a fire and we listen to elders tell stories, and that grabs attention because it taps into a child's imagination. And when you see this person reading with action and all, the child naturally learns to love books. Like my son loved books, both of them. I have two children. Both of them love books, and I never force them to read. I just read for them, and they naturally, ask me to read more, more, and more until one day, just like clockwork, my son asks, "What's this? What's this?" Because he always hear me read it, so he want to know what's this. I know you say it, but I want to know like what makes you say and sound it like that. So let's say the word is reflection, for example, right? And I say, oh, that's that word. It sounds reflection. Well, how does that make it sound? Because for a child, it doesn't make sense. These are just symbols for a child. But sounds, they are familiar with it. So I show this sounds like r, e, f, l. This is what we call phonics. And you do that, and the child naturally knows, oh, I am familiar with these sounds. I hear all the time. And they match it with the symbol. You do it enough times, eventually, they know how to read. You just have to see it to believe it. So, how do you know how to write, for example? Okay, first, a child needs to explore the digits, his fingers, right? Climbing and all this, like playing with slime, messy play and all, like chasing around, climbing, crawling. Develop this 10 fingers, and then they start to grab like a marker or a chalk or even a pen or something big, right? And they start to do this. They start to like scribble, chonte, right? Which makes parents crazy when see their beautiful home being drawn like cave drawings all around. But this is like, you want your child to write, right? This is one of the development. It's actually part of the development of writing. You have to start like this, and then they start to have finer motion, and they start to do this, they start to do that, and even the grip start to change how they hold the pen or the chalk or the marker, whatever. And that's how my son learned how to write. Conteng dulu, right? And then he loves to draw. He loves to draw things. Start with cave drawings, sticks, and he draw more complicated drawings. This is all like naturally his interest, right? And kids have this natural inclination. Maybe your child loves to trace something or love to maybe color, right? My son likes to draw. So to each his own. But this motion, right, in play fits with whatever personality or whatever inclinations that your child have. And that's how my son learned how to write, like that. And how does my son learn how to count? Math, right? Do play have math? Like, do you play around and say 2 plus 2 equals 4? Actually, yeah. One of the things that in KinderKaizen, the kids like by themselves kind of like figure out what to play is playing, like buying and selling stuff. Why? Because they see it happening all the time. This is functional learning. They go out into the world and they see my father, my mother buying stuff. And we buy stuff all the time. We buy them toys and they see us making the transaction and all that stuff, right? And they incorporate that into play, into their own play. And I cannot forget this. There was one time we had this huge box that we bought, like furniture, IKEA or something. So we keep the box. So pro tip, always keep the box because kids, they love boxes, because boxes is like this unlimited imagination source that they can do whatever they want with it. So they take this box, and this is among them, among this 4 and 5 year old, and they start to carve things in the box and doing this and that and the other, and they start to pull a chair, pull a table, and start to to arrange these knickknacks and whatever on the table, and then they put the box in on top of this table, and it becomes a McDonald's drive-through. It's like, what? Because they see it, that's what they see and they emulate it, but in the form of play. They don't realize that they're learning this stuff, right? That's the beauty of play, is learning. They don't realize they're doing this. It's not forced, it's something natural, it's something that they do for fun. They have this intrinsic motivation. You don't even have to push them to do these things. You just have to, I'll talk about it later, provide the proper environment. Anyway, so they have this contraption about this McDonald's drive-through using boxes, and they do buying and selling, right? They have this money that they created out of like Saidina money, or paper money or something, and they like 4 ringgit, please, and then, oh, I give you 5 ringgit. Oh, okay, that means I have to. Here's 1 ringgit back. So they learn, and if they don't know, okay, how do I count this? They ask the adult, how do you count this? They ask. This is another thing we have to understand. When they ask, that means they are ready to learn. They want to learn, right? It's like them going to you and say, give me knowledge. You don't even have to force it on them. So we teach them, oh, if the customer give you 5 ringgit and your product is 3 ringgit, so 5 minus 3. So you show them 5, take 3 away. How many you have? 2. There you go. So you give them back 2 ringgit. And this is all done in the context of play. So they didn't even know that they're learning math. It's not like we are announcing, okay, now we are learning mathematics. Open your book. No books needed. It's there in the functional nature of play. So my son learns how to write, my son learns how to read, my son learns how to count. And of course, I tell this as an anecdote because it's just my personal experience, but I also represent a lot of other parents' experience who go through the same process. And this is also backed by science, backed by research done by Dr. Peter Gray in the West, done by Dr. Putri here in Malaysia. It's backed by this data. So it's not just anecdotal, it's also scientific. It's just now facts, really. And now comes the big question. Okay, now I know children naturally can learn. They're very adaptive. They have this potential to learn, and they are natural in the play environment. They learn these things, yada yada yada. Okay. So what do I do? You may have that question, right? What do I do? Do I do nothing? Do I just watch them and just clap? No. Actually, adults have a major role to play in assisting children in the idea of letting them play freely, because freedom cannot be without limits. Merdeka, right? Freedom without limits will lead to chaos. Freedom without limits is anarchy. We have a word for it. It's called anarchy, where you don't have rules, you don't have structure, you don't have boundaries. People can do whatever they want. So we're not talking about that. We don't want that kind of freedom. So when giving freedom to children to play, it must be within certain boundaries. That's where we come in. We set the boundaries. We provide the right environment for them to explore the nature of their learning capacity, to explore through play. Play is learning, remember? And we provide the environment. That's it. We provide the environment at home, in kindergarten, even in school, even provide the right environment, and the child will thrive. Provide the right environment that would allow the child to explore physically in a safe manner. We're not talking about raising daredevils here. We want children to explore in a safe manner. Make sure that you have rules applied. right? You tell the children, okay, you can play here, but these are the rules. You cannot go past this line. You have to wait for your turn. Whenever there's a toy being played, you have to know how to share, right? If a child is playing with it, your friend is playing with it, you have to wait until the child is done and then you play with it. So it's not an idea where, okay, child, go and have fun and go nuts. No, obviously not. We're talking about an environment where it is relatively controlled but not dictated upon. So we don't have adults there with a referee whistle always like sounding off whenever a child does something. No. What we do have is adults providing the environment and then step back. Okay? Step back. And that's important because if adults dictate how they play, it stops becoming play. Let me repeat that. If you dictate how a child plays, it stops becoming play. It's no longer play. It's no longer fun. You know, you dictate, like, okay, today we're going to play this game and this is how we're going to play it. This is the right way to play it. This is the wrong way to play it. No, you just say, okay, make sure you're safe. You don't hurt anybody else. And, go ahead. Create your own rules. Why not? Right? Have your own organization, how you want to play the game. Or maybe you decide what you want to play today. And let me help. Let me assist you in providing the materials, provide the environment, proper environment, safe environment. If let's say a child says, I want to play with water today. Okay, I'll provide. That's it. I provide the water container, provide the right setting for it, make sure that the slippery situation is managed so that no kids are harmed in any way. And that's how we adults are functioning in this context of free to play. It's not this idea that, okay, you come, you play, and that's it. And plus there's generally two types of play. There's structured play, which play by the rules. You have certain things that you decide beforehand, and that's how you play the game. So much like how we adults play, we play a lot of structured games like football, rugby, badminton, or even games online. There's certain set of rules. That's structured play. And there's unstructured play where there's no set of rules, right? So you can kind of get wild with your imagination a bit, still within the context of safety. Like you have a set of blocks in front of you, different colors, different shapes, go play with it. And we often do this in KinderKaizen with new parents or even with our current parents, where we have parenting circles, we have events where we invite parents to join and parents have to play. And I remember the last open day we did, we had this unstructured play where parents sit around this pool of water and they have colored rice in the water. And the instruction is you can play, but you have to be within the boundaries of the pool. You can't go splashing around because it gets slippery, right? That's the only thing that we dictate. Other than that, you play. And then we step back, right? And oftentimes we see parents hesitate because they're waiting for instructions. And this is not the fault of the parents. This is to illustrate how we as adults, we have grown a lot and we have been conditioned a lot by society, by the place we live, by our workplace, by our school even, that everything has to have a structure. Everything. So when we say, here's a pool of water, colored rice, play. They have to take a few seconds to compute. Okay, how do I play this? What's the right way to play this? What are the rules? Right? That's an example of structured mind in an unstructured play environment. And just that goes to show our conditioning as adults. And by the way, this is not to say that, these adults are bad or whatnot. This is just normal. I'm like that myself. We adults, we live by the structure. It's just that because we grow up So much childhood is so far back, we forgot that once upon a time we were those unstructured minds where we can play with literally anything. Remember that? You can play with anything. Just give a child a stick and he can play with the stick for hours. So because of that, we struggle to go back to the unstructured mind and just play with it. Just play with this thing. A child doesn't have any difficulty doing that. A child whose natural play instincts are not interrupted, they can just sit in that environment with that pool of water and colored rice. And when the teacher said play, they immediately go in because this is unstructured. So they can do anything with it, right? So that's just one example of providing the right environment can really help a child thrive. And that's just a few things that we mix around in KinderKaizen. And this is not just in KinderKaizen. We hope to see this happening literally everywhere kids are, at home, in school, in other kindergartens. We want to see this happening everywhere because this is what the child needs from us as adults, as their fathers, as their mothers, as their teachers, as their caretakers. This is the kind of freedom they need, and from this kind of freedom they learn to develop this essential skill sets that they need to solve problems around them, to have relationships with people, healthy relationships with people, to be able to be liked by people, to get along with people, to be able to express themselves in a healthy manner, to understand their body, to understand their emotions, all the emotions, not just some, all the emotions, the good, bad, and the ugly, all done because they, as a child, play and they played well, right? And the idea is that when you have this as your foundation in childhood, it will help you a lot in growing up, being an adolescent, being a young adult, and being a full adult in the future. And studies have shown time and time again the first few years of our lives are so crucial, it can have massive effects to us when we are full adults. For example, attachment theory, for example, states that in the first 2 years of life, the first 2 years of life, a child develops trust, develop the idea of trust, the capacity to trust people, and the sense that the world is either trustworthy or the world is all dangerous. So if you have secure trust developed in the first 2 years, studies have shown, attachment theory, you can look it up, it will affect you when you are an adult, where you have trust issues in dealing with people. If you're secure in your trust, it's easier for you to get along with people, to have romantic relationships, healthy marriages, and so on. This is not to say that people on the other side of the spectrum are doomed to fail. No, they are dipengaruhi, affected a lot by their childhood. They can change, definitely. Humans are very flexible creatures. We're capable of change. We have the capacity to change, and we can definitely change and modify our behavior if we so wish to do so, right? If we have the awareness to do so. So don't worry. If let's say your childhood is not as perfect as I'm describing with all this freedom to play thing, it doesn't mean that you're doomed to fail. No, as adults, we can still play. There's still room for us to play, and we can still develop those skills that we probably miss or skipped because we have the capacity to learn and relearn stuff, unlearn things, and learn new things. But for our children now, as you are looking them in the eyes right now, we want to make sure that we provide the best environment for them to have the best childhood, not rushed towards the academics too soon before its time, but in its proper pace and development, develop as a human being properly through what is most natural to them, i.e., play. And if, let's say, you would like to learn more about play, you would like to understand more about play, or you would like to know more about KinderKaizen, this organization that that I'm representing, specifically KinderKaizen Arau, where I am at right now. Or if you're not in Perlis, don't worry, KinderKaizen is available all throughout Malaysia. So don't worry, you can find one near you. So you can go to kinderkaizen.com. That's our official website. The whole Malaysia has one website, kinderkaizen.com. And my branch is KinderKaizen Arau, just so you know. And if you want to learn more about play specifically, you can grab the book Ada Apa Dengan Bermain by Dr. Putri Afzan Maria. I will put the link in the description later on in this live session. And if, let's say, there are no questions in the live chat, because I can see that people are super focused about the representation right now. So I'll just end with this. Okay, I'll just end with this. This idea of freedom to learn and freedom to play, play is learning, for our children is not a new idea. I know it feels new. It feels new. It feels weird when you first time sending your child to a place, let's say it's KinderKaizen, or let's say it's someplace else, and that place only does play. Like children go there and they just play. It feels weird because you feel, are these people learning? Are these kids learning? I don't see any workbook. I don't see any like tests, exam. I don't see anything. I don't see the results. It feels weird because we are conditioned by years and years and years of conditioning experiences that that's how we should learn, by sitting down, shutting up, eyes front, pen at the ready, and jotting things down. No doubt that's how adults learn. No doubt, right? As an adult, that's how I learn, right? I have my notebook. I love writing down notes. But as children, that's not how they learn. You know, you can grab a classroom full of kids from whatever country, like 5 year olds, 3 year olds, 2 year olds, and for the first time asking them, sit down, we're going to learn something, you will find that it's very, very difficult to do, unless, of course, you force them. And sure, if you force them enough times, they will comply. Kids adapt very well, they will comply, but they will also suppress that tendency, that inclination that they have to play. So you have kids fidgeting, you have kids disturbing other kids, you have kids who are noisy in the classroom, because these inclinations they have, I want to play, I want to play, I want to play, are not met in the environment, right? And you have kids who don't want to go to those kind of places anymore. Maybe once or twice, sure, but after a few times they feel like, oh, I don't want to go. So they cry every morning when they go to kindergarten, when they go to school, because it's not a place where it's naturally celebrating their fitrah, a buzzword where we as Malaysians, specifically Muslim Malaysians, use a lot. Fitrah, fitrah anak, fitrah anak, fitrah anak. And I have no doubt this is fitrah anak. Anak, kids should play. Kids should play. The Prophet played with kids, right? So that's the nature of their reality as of right now. Their childhood should be filled with memories of play, memories of the playground, climbing up trees, going into the ocean, going into swimming pools, like playing with mud, playing in the ditch, playing and falling down, and all this kind of stuff, having conflicts with friends, having difficulty sharing their toys, and then eventually learning how to wait for their turn. All these things are memories that will eventually become the foundation for all the big skills that you and I talk about as adults, talking about critical thinking, talking about communication skills, talking about having good relationship in marriage, talking about all these big skills. Where do they come from? There you go. It came from this tiny little body who's trying to figure things out through play. And with that, I want to thank you for joining me in this journey, this experience, this exploration. And I am not an expert by any stretch of the word. I am not a spokesperson. I am simply a father, first and foremost, with two boys, concerned just like any other parent. And I'm learning along the way. And the things that I have realized along my journey as a father is what I am sharing with you today. Right? Yes, there are scientific findings and all, but really it's just from my heart. It's just what I believe to be the case and what I believe to be the truth, and what I have colored a lot of my parenting with. And with that, again, I thank you for your time. Thank you for being with me. And again, this is recorded. You can share, reshare, learn, unlearn, and please, for as many people as you can think of, if they need to hear this message, please share with them. And I thank you for doing that. And thank you for joining this movement. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Have a good day. Have a good play.